As we celebrate Women's History Month and the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote, we are thankful for the leaders of the women's suffrage movement. The women's suffrage movement was the fight for women's right to vote, which began around the 1850s. The narrative that has been told about the movement credits Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony as its prominent leaders. Stanton and Anthony wanted white middle-class women to achieve a status equal to white men, primarily their husbands. Although they were abolitionists, Stanton and Anthony were not inclusive and did not have an agenda for minorities or lower-class white women. They attempted to prevent minority women from taking part in the movement or benefiting from it. Minority women who refused to be left out were motivated by the ability to make a large impact on the fight for civil rights for their entire race, men and women alike. The fight for women's rights was a multifaceted movement fought on many fronts, requiring an array of diverse leaders to push the movement forward. These leaders led the movement through a long and sometimes violent struggle for their rights. As a result of their contributions, the 19th Amendment was ratified in August of 1920, giving women the right to vote. Regardless of Stanton's and Anthony's motives, we honor their impact, but there are many leaders of the movement who have not received the credit they deserve. Leaders such as Dr. Mabel Lee, a Chinese immigrant who became a leader in the suffrage movement at 16 years old. She was an advocate for the rights of women as well as the Chinese immigrant community. She fought for women's right to vote despite knowing that she would not benefit from it due to the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. Marie Louise Bottineau Baldwin was a Native American who fought for women's rights in the Native American community. She became nationally known as a spokesperson for Native American women, testifying in front of Congress, meeting with women from across the country, and was a member of the contingent who met with President Woodrow Wilson. Alice Paul organized the Silent Sentinels who picketed the White House for 18 months and was thrown in jail in response to her peaceful protests. Adelina Otero Warren was a Latina who created a legacy of civil service and was the first Latina to run for Congress. Ida B. Wells was an African American who led the fight against racism and sexism in Chicago, Illinois, and participated in national efforts in Washington, D.C. Wilhelmina Dallset was a native Hawaiian who organized the National Women's Equal Suffrage Association of Hawaii. Elizabeth Piper Ensley was a Caribbean American who led the suffrage movement in Colorado and worked to educate black women on why and how to vote. These are only a few, as the list of leaders across the women's suffrage movement are too many to capture conclusively. All leaders of the women's suffrage movement were leadership misfits. They fought the long battle, although some would not live to see the amendment passed or were unable to benefit from it. They were leadership misfits who made sacrifices, stood firm while enduring verbal and physical abuse, worked tirelessly towards the just cause, and challenged the status quo of disenfranchisement to change the world.